practicing yoga for quite some time. I grew up playing lots of sports, and I was doing yoga throughout my childhood and into my adult years, more so as just a form of exercise, and I was always a cheerleader and a dancer, so I really loved sort of the creativity and the places that I could go with yoga. From there, when I found yoga, I would say it was a little bit of a different story. So in the past couple years, I had been doing quite a bit of yoga, and I really loved it and everything like that. It was a good workout for me. I felt better mentally, all of the great stuff that we all love about yoga. But it wasn't actually until I had a stomach surgery last year, and it was an emergency, and after that I had to take quite some time recovering from movement altogether. So at this time I was recovering from some surgery, and after being an athlete my whole life, I had thought that I would never be able to move my body in the same way again. And so when I was finally able to go back and do yoga, and I went into that room with a completely different yoga practice than when I had been back the last time. And this really changed everything for me, because it showed me sort of the therapeutic benefits of yoga. It helped me recover from my surgery, and it's helped me find a mind-body connection that's really transformed who I am as a person, and brought me to a really great place in my life with my mental health as well. So this is something that I have found in yoga, even practicing it throughout my entire life. And there was really just one moment when that sort of changed for me, and I took it as something a little bit more seriously. So I got my training in December. I went to Costa Rica for a 18-day intensive program. I loved every single moment of it, probably one of the best experiences of my life. And then from there is where I came home and started looking for places to teach. And I was always told to never apply somewhere unless you walk into the space and feel the energy in that space. And that sort of encapsulates what I'm doing right here, right now. I walked in here and spoke to Lorianne, and I didn't even talk about my teaching. I just took a class, and we just talked, and the energy was just there. And she had asked me if I taught yoga, or if I was teaching, or if I was looking to teach anywhere, before I had even told her that I was interested in applying for maybe a teaching position here at this studio. So from there on out, she's always believed in me. I've been to lots of studios and sort of, trying to find my place in this world, and she kind of took me in and said, if you really want to teach, I will help you teach. And so here I am, and I wouldn't be the teacher that I am right now, even as a very young teacher, if it weren't for the opportunities that I've been provided with here. So I'm extremely grateful for that, and for walking into this space a few months after the new year. So I would say that before I had my surgery on my stomach, I've always been a very athletically able person, and I'm very fortunate to be in a body that performs that way. However, this was taking quite the toll on me, because I was very, very hard on myself when it came to sports. I had a lot of expectations for myself, even just in the gym if I was working out, or in yoga as well. So I really had that critic voice for me, with me in my yoga practice for quite some time. And that sort of mirrors like the way that life goes. Sometimes you have that critic voice in your head for a very, very long time. And it wasn't until my body had completely changed that when I walked into that room and sat down my mat, it would have been outrageous of me to have these expectations for my body that I once had. I had lost all this weight, I had a big scar down my belly, I couldn't move the way I once could, and so it wasn't fair of me, no matter how much that critic voice wanted to have the same expectations for my practice, to be able to hold the poses the same, to have the same strength. And so I really had to take a step back in this moment and experience every pose like it was the first time I've ever done it. So I remember even just lifting my arm up and being amazed that I could do it. And so for me, that was a really, really big change in perspective. And essentially when I walked out of that room after, I thought, that's what yoga is. After all of these practices, all of these times, walking into the room with no expectation of the way my body was supposed to move and just being in that moment, allowing it to, for whatever happens to just happen. And I was amazed with everything that I could do, even if it was just lifting my arm up like 90 degrees. So that's when I really found yoga, and that changes the way I teach, because I do really like to make a point to my students that even just moving your hand, connecting it with your breath and focusing your mind, that is yoga. And that's something that I feel gets lost a little bit sometimes in this world. And so that is the part of yoga that saved me, and I want to make sure that other people understand that that is a huge part of yoga. It's not always just about touching our toes, even though it can be quite fun. From taking a class with me, you can expect to have some fun, for sure. I'm very bubbly and I have lots of energy, but I have really learned how to sort of channel this energy and use it in different ways. So I find it very, very important to me to make sure that my classes are all very, very inclusive feeling. So very supportive, very welcomed. That's sort of one of the first things that I love about yoga, is that I feel safe and I feel accepted. And so to provide those things for other people is something that's really important for me. So you can always be sure that you're going to feel welcomed and that you'll have a little bit of fun. I do have a background as like a gymnast, and I was a cheerleader throughout university, so I am very comfortable with lots of different ranges of motion. So if you want to really stretch, we can really stretch, but if you don't at all, we don't have to at all. So I'm very comfortable with teaching some maybe positions and going upside down and doing some silly things like that that makes me a little bit unique. So those are some things about what to expect when you take a class with me.